Okay, so we actually got on to Daf Kuf Aleph, Amud Aleph yesterday. Yesterday we learned a Mishnah about a woman that is Mishana from what he was supposed to do when he sanctions. Rav Meir held if he changed the color, he's kind so he's somewhat protected, but Rav Yehuda holds he was always sanctioned. Even Rav Meir agrees that he sanctioned if he wasn't Mishana, but he did a very bad job. That was the machlokes that we had. The Gemara cited a case that would be parallel to the case of the wool about wood. Okay, so before we start, I just want to there's three big yurtzeit. The problem is since we have two others, I don't know if these yurtzeits are other aleph or other base. For now, we'll start with other aleph. So the first yurtzeit is the chassidim with the yurtzeit of the base is wrong. Here, so it's also the yurtzeit of the great Rosh Yeshiva of Torah Vodaas, Rav Kalmanovitz. That was Rav Yishvei's father-in-law. And my favorite story about Rav Kalmanovitz is he was a massive onav. And massive and onav don't go together, but he was a big onav, and he was very uncomfortable with the title of Rosh Yeshiva. He insisted that people called him Mr. Mendelovich. He was known as Mr. Mendelovich. Oh, so I'm mixing it up. Oh, I mixed it up. I mixed the whole thing because Rav Kalmanovitz. Oh, so it's not Mr. Mendelovich. Taka mixed up. Rav Kalmanovich. That's right. So I'm mixing up the wrong Yeshiva. It's also big on it. That's right. Rav Kalmanovich, during the Second World War, on Shabbos, he got into a taxi, and he was going from Gvir to Gvir to collect money to help the save Eden that were trapped in Germany. And he said, I have to go by myself on Shabbos, because if I knock on someone's door on Shabbos getting out of a cab, it'll make a roshim on them. They'll realize that this is very, very serious. The third yard today for all the briskers is repair also the yard side. So all the briskers that are roughly between 55 and 75, they learn by a barrel, like Yosy Lipschitz. So barrel's yard side today. I wonder if he even knows. He probably does. Okay. So the Gemara is going to declare a very interesting shot. Yesh shvach simonim alatzeh. If wool is dyed, do you say that the mamoshes, you say that it's considered like the dye is still there, or ain't shvach simonim alatzeh? We're going to have to figure out why do I care? Vasamir anafkamina. So let's first see how Rashi frames the shaila. The last of the first four lines, Yesh shvach. So Rashi frames the question. The fact that you see color, even though you don't actually see the dye, is that considered like it's actually here? Dr. Gemara, exactly what would be the case where this shaila would have an up? Dr. Gemara, if you're going to want to suggest the gazel samanim, a ganev stole samanim, which are like they're plant stuff. With the kinu, he ground them down. With terno, and he soaked them, and that's how you make a dye. With tzava then he dyed with it. And the shaila is, as she says, Temer Shaloi, the Goslin dyed his own wool. Mi boilon, that's the question. Yesh shvach simonim ala tzemer, the chazus milsi. Do you say that these simonim are still here? Because the fact that you could see the coloring in the wool means it's right here. Well, on my lay, and therefore the victim, the nixal, could say, Havli samanoi, give me my simonim back. The boy, remember, come on, like we're going to soon say. If that's the question, before he even dyed his beged with it, by grinding it, soaking it, that creates a shinoi. So the gospel was already kind of. So anyway, the nixal cannot ask for it back. So the gazel samanim shruyin. He already stole samanim that were ready to go. They were ready to be used as a dye. And he dyed his own wool with it. So what is the question? Yesh shvach samanim al gabi. Do you say that it's like samanim here, and therefore the victim can say, "Havli samanoi ishaklet." Give me back my dye that's right there. I'd like it back. Or maybe we don't say it's like the simonim right there. The Amr Lay, the Goslin can tell the next I'll go fly a kite. Less loch kaboy v'loy midi. I have nothing of yours. Correct, Gemara. How could you suggest that? Amri v'i ain't shvach simonim al gabi temer. Me matzi Amr Lay less loch kaboy v'loy midi. Could you? The Goslin stole something from me. Just because it's not apparent in his wool, the Goslin still owes because he took something from somebody. Name a lay. Let the nigga say havli samnoi dav sedetinu. You've destroyed my some money. You took them. You got to pay me back. So that cannot be the shayla. Okay, let's see Rashi. Amri, v'yein shvach mi motzi omer les lach kaboy v'lemidi bitmiya nehi nami the chazus alav milsehi. Okay, let's say it's not considered like it's bad, even though you see the coloring there. But still, let the nixal say you stole it from me. You destroyed it. I want it back. No one could possibly suggest that the Goslin will be butter. So let's try to reframe this question. Do you say that it's not be'en? I stole these samanim. The samanim are not be'en, so I have no choice. I have to pay out the nigzal in cash. Or maybe yesh shvach samanim al gabi etzemer. And since this, we consider it like samanim are be'en, maybe I have to give the actual wool to the nigzal. And therefore the Goslin could tell the nigzal, I'm not paying you out the $20 that your dye is worth. Take my wool. Take it. And I misspoke. Not take my wool. Take your dye out of the wool. Yeah, you're right. Your dye is right here. So take it back. Take your dye. How in heavens is the victim supposed to extract his dye out of the Yener's wool? But my shop, are you going to suggest that he uses a detergent to wash out the wool and thereby extract the tseva? Soften avur me'aver, yes, it'll definitely take the dye out of the baguette, hashabalay of it, but it's not going to restore all of the dye in a nice jar as it was, right? It's just going to wash down the drain. So what type of taina is the Goslin trying to say? Take it. The story is a completely different story. What happened is the Gozal Tzemar V'Samonim Dechad. He stole from one person both the Tzemer and the Samonim. So he's no longer dyeing his own personal wool with the Samonim that he stole. He's dyeing the stolen wool with the stolen dye. V'Tzave Lahu Tzemer, and he dyed the wool that he stole with the Samonim that he stole, B'Hanach Samonim. And now he is making the Hashava to the Bailam. And now he wants to be Mekayim, the mitzvah Hashava, both on the wool as well as on the dye, by giving him back the wool that's dyed. Do you say Yesh Shvach Simonim al Gabi Atzemer, and therefore B'cham Hadle Simonim Vitzemer, and now he's returned both Simonim and the Tzemer just by giving him back the dyed. Oidilma ain't Shvach Simonim al Gabi Tzemer, which means he still owes. He still, even though he gave back the wool, he still owes Simonim because merely the dye, the pigment in the wool does not count as actually having returned the dye. Vitzemer Mahadalei, he has given back wool, but Simonim le Mahadalei. Even though the wool is dyed, we don't consider it like he gave back the Simonim. Frankly, what's the difference? What he gave back is worth more, right? It's dyed wool. It's worth more than non-dyed wool. So let's think about it. Let's say the dye is worth $5. The wool that's dyed's got to be worth more than $5 more than undyed wool. So even though he's not giving him back the actual dye, he's giving him back wool that's worth considerably more than the wool that he stole. So if that's the case, he should be paid up anyway. Amri typically the ayaker lein halei b'dami. If you dyed wool with teva, surely the wool would have improved in value even more than the value of the teva, because otherwise no one would dye it, right? Zok Gemara. So we have a problem here. What is our shaila? Where is this going to be relevant? Zok Gemara lo tricha de zoltziv. What if the price of dyed wool went down? Wool stayed up in value. So let's think about this. He stole wool that was worth $10. He stole tseva that was worth $10. So he stole a total of $20 worth of product. Now he dyed the wool. So you think the wool now is worth $25, but no, the wool now is worth $22. So even though dye is $10, but if you dye wool, the wool will only improve by $2. So if he gives back the wool that's worth $22, he still owes another $8. If you say, yeah, because I stole $10 of wool, $10 of tseva, and I only gave back wool, I'm in $12. Okay, now I messed this whole thing up. Let's start from scratch. The guy that stole wool worth $10, he stole tseva worth $10, and he dyed the wool with the tseva, and now the wool with the dyed wool is worth $12. The wool with the tseva is worth $12, but he stole $20. If you'll yeshvach simanim tseva, so when he gives back the wool that's only worth $12, he can tell the bailam, I'm giving back your wool, I'm giving you back your tseva, and he's scot-free. But if you owe, there's no shvach samanim b'tzemer, meaning I owe you the cash value of your samanim, which means I owe you $10. I can't give you wool that's worth $2 more than the wool that I stole and expect those $2 to pay $10, so you still owe another $10. But this is a very unusual case because the price of dye didn't go down, but the price of dyed wool went down. It's a little weird case, right? So let's have a look at Rashi and then Rabbi Akiva Eiger.
It didn't go down. The price of dyed wool up, but not as much as the cost.
Right. But normally, normally when you dye something, it should improve more than the value of just the ingredients. There's labor involved, right? So unless it was worth more to do it. So let's look at Tosfos first of all. The Zaltziva, Ari the Gazel Samamonim Shruim. He still stole Samamonim Shruim because otherwise you have the Shinu problem. So he stole dye that did not require any Shinu. So look at what Rashi says. The Zaltziva. So Rashi says, Dafker Tzama Tzavua, Dafker the wool that's dyed. And therefore, the Ein Magi and Shvach, the $2 more that this dyed wool is now worth 12 instead of 10, doesn't come close to the full $10 value of the dye by itself, the Demei Saman. But the Nigzal can say, I'm not taking back this dyed wool and accepting that as the Ashava on the dye. And I would have never used it to dye my wool and lose value. I would have sold the Samanim for $10. And now you're mafsid me, so you have to pay me in full. Or I would have dyed a beged, not just a piece of wool, where there would have been benefit. So now you made me lose $8. The tzemer did not become increased in value to compensate for the loss of my. Simple? Make sense? We got to get this clear because we have to look this from Akiva Eiger. Akiva Eiger is so off the charts. He's such a practical thinker. Okay, so we got it. So again, the wool that he stole was 10. The samanim are 10, and he dyed the wool with it. Now there's no samanim left, but we have a $12 wool. Can I give back the $12 wool and say, here's your samanim, here's your wool? Or no, it's not considered having given back the samanim. He owes him $10 for the samanim. Yes, the wool is now worth an extra $2, so you'll pay me off. That was the shot. Fragt Rabbi Akiva Eiger gewaltige kasha. This is mamish geschmack. Zogt Rabbi Akiva Eiger. Lefizeh, the way Rashi is describing it, you have to say the Zol Tziva. What does it mean the Zol Tziva? Dye went down. Hanu the Tzemer Tzivu. Just the cost of the wool that's dyed went down. Aval Samanim Atman, but the actual dye, Loi Huzlu, they're still worth the original. So right off the bat, that's a little bit of a difficult thing to say. But the Lamai Shrichilos, why did Rashi have to say such an unusual case? Rashi could have come up with a much simpler pshat in this part of the Gemara. And what could Rashi have said? The Huzlu Samanim Taka went down in value. So not only did the wool go down in value, the value of the dye. So when he stole the dye, it was worth $10. But now dye went down, and it's only worth $2. Now it makes more sense. Dyed wool went down, and dye went down. So what's the issue here? The after gam ilu machram loy haya moichem b'yoker. Even though had the Nigzal wanted to sell the dye, had he retained that dye, he also would have taken a loss, and he would have only been able to sell it for $2 instead of $10. But mikol makoim, Kivan the ein shvach samonim v'loy mikri hashava. Once by giving back the dyed wool, the Gazlan cannot say racial cholafanecha because we don't consider it like he's returning the dye. So have a kenev aragzela. If you steal dye that's worth $10 and then you lose it, so you can't give the actual wool back, and now the dye is worth $2, you can't go buy new dye for $2 and give it back. You have to pay kishas aragzela. You have to pay him $10 because that's what you stole from him. So it's such a simpler case. Just say it went down, and the question is, does he have to pay kishas aragzela? Why does Rashi need such a weird case where the dye is worth more, but the dyed clothing are worth less? So Zok Kivegi Mikri Hashava have a kenevet aragzela, the Mishal kishas aragzela. So that's Rabbi Kiveger's first phase. His first phase is, I don't understand Rashi, why Rashi had to offer such an unusual case where the dye retained its value, but the value of the dyed clothing dropped. Say everything dropped in parallel, but since the dye is not here, the Gazlan is mechuyev to pay kishas aragzela, which is a full $10, even though it dropped in value, and the Gazlan gets sanctioned by having to pay the value of what he stole at the time that he stole. That is kasha number one. And then Rabbi Kiva takes it a step further. Forget Rashi and how Rashi explains the Gemara's teretz. The whole Gemara's teretz is not necessary. It has such a weird case where he stole it and it went down. Kashali, gam al haGemara. The lamai tzarich lo ukma the gozol tzava v'samamonim dechad. Why did we change from our last attempted ukimta of what the shaila was about? Look at the Meikara. Why didn't we stick to the original suggestion that the Gemara made? And what was the case? The gozol samanim shruyim v'tzava semer shaloi. Let's say it's the original case. The Ganim stole ready to go dye, and he dyed his own, the Ganim's own wool. Well, huzal harbe, and the cost of dye dropped dramatically. Ad shat semar imatzeva sha'olov ein oilin l'dmei atzeva kishahaya b'idin akzela. The tzeva was worth $10 when he took it. Now he dyed his own tzemer with it, and the dyed tzemer is only worth $8. So the question is, can the Gazan give back his dyed tzemer? If you hold yesh shvach samanim, then you would say mahadele samanim. He would give back the samanim. He could say, this is yours back. What did the Gemara ask? How can you say Reishal Chalafnecha? How is the nigga supposed to extract the dye out of his beged? The Gemara said use a detergent, but the Gemara said the detergent won't work. Here he has a simple eitzah. Keep my wool. Now I don't. The whole problem is how am I going to get it out? Here's the wool. Keep the wool. It's still better for me because the dye is worth $10. The dyed wool is only worth $8. So let him just give him the wool. That is the shayla. The ein shvach simonim, and if you say that the simonim is not there, it's not ve'en. Well, then loy hava hashav al simonim. It's not a good hashav. You can't say reishal chalafnecha. Tzarich l'shalom hidimei kara. Therefore, you would have to pay $10, which was the value of the dye when he stole. And for tzarich in gadol, this is a very, very big kasha. Why did the Gemara have to switch cases? The Gemara could have remained consistent and just said that the dye clothing and the dye dropped to such a level where even the clothing that's already pre-dyed is worth less than dye by itself. Okay, beautiful, beautiful. So it's very practical. It's very practical. Okay. Zok the Heilige Gemara weiter. So that's one shot of how to explain Rav Shaila. That is the Zol Tziva. The dye went down in value. And therefore, the question is, when you return you return wool with dye, do we say that it's like you were returning the dye be'en, and you could say a racial chalafanecha or not? That's one shot. The boy say, or there's another shot. Going to Tava Bahu Kufa. You dyed a monkey. In other words, there was zero benefit from the wool at all, because a brown monkey and a blue monkey really cost the same, and therefore you were ma'abed his dye. The question is, could I give him the monkey? And this was the Rashi was told it was his monkey. I stole a monkey and I stole dye, and I dyed his monkey with his dye. can I give back the monkey that's died and say, very weird case. Zokt Rashi, Inami de Tzava Bukupa, Gazel Koif, Vishamonim. You stole a monkey and Samonim, Vitzava es Koif, and you dyed the monkey blue. Umach sounds like a Dr. Seuss story. Umach Ziroi, Veloy, and you give it back to the owner, the Loya Yakerle. There's zero benefit here. Ba'amri law, there are those who have a different shot, not as exciting. Kupa Shol Tzorim. It was a basket of reeds that we don't really care what color it is. Tosfos doesn't like these unusual kimtas, and Tosfos says the Tzavu Kupa Pirish Pekuntus Shagozal Kuf V'Samamonim Shruyin V'Tzavas Hakuf. The tamer freaks, not because it's Tosfos tells Rashi, stop monkeying around. You got to get the good shot. The tamer, they came after to be a die. Come on, if you die a monkey with dye, that's like you spilled it down the drain. So Chagavna Hezek Nikru. This is not a Hezek Nikru. This is a Hezek Nikru. Machayiv, you should for sure be chayiv to pay for the full value. How could you possibly say Areshal Chalav Necha? It's literally like pouring it down the drain. But near the fires, you know what the Tzava B'Kuba means? It means his workmanship was like that of a monkey. The Tzava B'Kuba Koloimer Begrius Ubechir Ke'ein Kuf Shumachur. Just like a monkey is ugly, I don't want to get attacked by PETA. Just like a monkey is ugly, so too, I don't know why Tosh says a monkey is ugly. I know a lot of people that look like monkeys. Maybe I should say that. So I'll call upon him. What it means is he did such an ugly job, therefore there was no shvach. Whatever he died did not become worth one extra penny due to him die. That's not as exciting as Rashi. Okay, so let's see the Gemara back there. So that's the second option of what the Shiloh could be. Ravina has a third option. There was no theft. It's not a case of Gzela at all. It's a very simple case. The Temer Dechad, Yankel had wool, V'Salmonim Dechad, and Beryl had dye. The Kosikuf, a monkey came along, V'Tzove Lahu Temer. We're talking about all these monkeys doing these things. It's starting to get me thinking about evolution. And the monkey came along, took someone's Temer, took another guy's dye, and he dyed Moshe's wool with Beryl's dye. And the question is, do you say that Moshe's wool and Beryl's dye still be him? So Beryl could go to Moshe and say, my dye is right here, I'd like my dye back. So do you say the Omar Le Havli Seminoi the Gabachninu? Beryl could tell Moshe, my dye is in this wool, so you must give me the wool. I'm entitled to money over here because my dye is right here. Or the fact that you just see the coloring of the temer doesn't mean that the dye is here. Well, Omar Le and the owner of the wool, Moshe, can tell Beryl, less luck, you are out of luck. Your dye was depleted, but it's not here, and therefore you cannot claim it from me. Gewaltig. Rashi says, the Temer Dechad v'Saman Dechad, v'lav lini gazlan kaboila. Then kan gezel. There was no gezel here at all. It was just an unfortunate case where somebody's dye was taken by an entity that will not have to pay him for damages. And now the question is, can he at least claim some part of the wool to retain or to reclaim part of his dye? Frek Tosh is a pashudakai. Oy dilma ain't shvach samamun al gabetemer tema harei nehena shetzamer mulu b'domim yoser. Moshe's wool was worth $10. Now that it's dyed, it's worth $20. So at least let him pay that. Yishal mash nehena. Even if ain't shvach samamun al gabetemer, the fact is you benefited from the fact that my dye is in your wool. Yishal mash nehena. So Tosfos says v'yesh l'chalik, and Tosfos cites examples of cases where somebody has a no and he gets to make a claim against that. Since the hana didn't come from my mice, in other words, I didn't do anything to your wool. It's merely my dye ended up in your wool. I cannot claim for hana unless I did something, or v'loy al mice behemta, or if my animal did something If there was some ma'aseh that I did to contribute to your benefit, there's a claim of hana. Here, my stuff is by you. That's not considered hana. One of the cases that Tosfos cites is someone puts food into my mouth. I have to pay mashin hennis, even though I didn't touch anything. I didn't take anything, so why is there a chiv to pay there? That's because his guf, I don't know. His guf having a no is something that's more of a machayiv rather than his wool being improved. Hinami hana, or maybe this hana is not considered a actionable hana. She'ein elanoi ba'alma yosher makes it look a little nicer. Not an actionable hana. I guess hana has to be more concrete. I'm not sure what the gedorim are. Kivek cites a shach that I guess clarifies what the gedorim. But that's the side issue that Tosfos Barvorins. There's no problem here at Mashal. That was the shaila. Okay, Tashma. Now that we've clarified what the shaila is, let's see if we could come to a pshitus. Now, Rashi at the end, at the beginning, framed the shaila. No matter what case it is, or it's kapsanaf kamina, the bottom line is the shaila is as Rashi says. Chazusa milsahi, I love milsa. The fact that it's colored, is that considered mamoshish like it's there or not? Right? The different cases of the Gemara were just to try to find places where we can apply the shaila. But the shaila is the same no matter what the case is. The fact that there's coloring in something, is that like the actual suman of our Dr. Gemara, Tashma. Beged shetzavoi beklipe arla. Arla is also bana. If you dyed a beged with the peels of arla, and Rashi clarifies that it doesn't mean the bark from a tree, because there's no kedushas arla on that. It means the peel of the actual peri. So you dye the beged with Yisuri Hana. You have to burn it. You have to burn it. Now, if we say there's no really mamashis here, why would I have to burn it? So Alma Chazusa Milsi. The fact you have to burn it means the coloring in the beged, clearly we say it's as if the Yisra knows. That's what has to be burnt. Amarava, no, you cannot bring a raya from Arla, because Arla has a special pasuk to tell us that Ano Anira Lainayim. And that you could see, even if Chazusa Lav Milsi, but if you could see it, there's a special pasuk that includes that it's one of the Yisurim of Arla, the Tanya. It says in the pasuk, Arelim lo yachel. Let's read the pasuk inside into order. V'chisavayu al aretz unatatem kolitz machol, araltem or losoi espirioi, shaloi shonim yia lochem arelim lo yachel. So it says at the end of the pasuk, arelim lo yachel. The only issue is to eat it. Ainli al isra achila. I would have only thought that Arla carries an isra achila. Minayin shlo yehena mimen. How do you know you cannot have a no? Below yitzpa boy. You can't use it to dye with, which is exactly the discussion that we're having here. Below yadlik boy asaner, and you shouldn't use it as a torch. Hamadoimer ba'araltem or losoi as perioi arelim lo yachel. All these repetitions of araltem is being marba many more uses other than eating it. L'rabbi says. So there, chazusa milsi, because there's a special pasuk. But l'maisa, we don't look at it like it's actually. So you don't have a raya. From here, let's try another raya. Toshma bega chatavi b'kli b'shvius. Exactly the same thing, but using shvius. You'd look again. Shani Hasan Damakra Tiabav Yosy. We have a pasuk by Shemitah as well that says kodesh tiyalachem. No raya. Okay, so this shaila remains unresolved. Now we're going to try another interesting discussion. Rava asked a stira, and look at the stira that he asked. Let's just go back a second to refresh our memory. Who is talking on Amud Aleph? Who asked this whole shaila? This shaila we discussed here? No, it doesn't say. But Rava was very involved in explaining what was going on. Amar Rava, Anar Nilay. So Rava subscribes to this shaila over here, right? And he's the one who says that Arla is special. Now we have Rava coming along and saying something else. What does Rava say over here? Rava Tanan, it says in the Mishnah, Beged Shetzavoi, the Klibe Arla Yidla. Right? That was the brisa that we just learned. Alma Chazusa Milsi. See Chazusa Milsi. Praktoshus, didn't Rava just say a moment ago that Arla is different because there's a special pasuk? So what he forgot what he said just a minute ago? Zaktash Tema. The Rava Shani Leil, Shiny Arla. Ichsiv, Kroi, my awesome, Leafina. Okay, my parach my Arla Tuma. What's he asking over here? Therefore, the Toshus and Nirkas Sfarim, the Gersi Il Rab. Maybe a number Aleph is not Rava, maybe it's Rava. Gers Rava Yishlam Dichu. Maybe Rava didn't really believe in his teretz. He was just trying to be doichet a raya. So what is this kasha? You see Chazusa Milsahi because the dye, the coloring in the beged that came from Orla infects the beged. The beged now is also good. Rabini, the halacha is kazais from a mace is metame oil. Revius dam of a mace is metame oil. Therefore, if there's a revius dam and a mace in the house, all of the kalim that are in the house will be tummy. Of course, the house itself does not become tummy. So what does the Brisa say? Revius dam shenivela divides. There's no dam ba'en. It was already absorbed into the ground. Allah is habayis tummy. The house is tummy, which Rashi says means the kalim in the bayis are tummy. And there are those who say habayis tor, that the bayis is tor. But likely it's not a machlokes. It depends on when the kalim came into the house. Kalim that were there when the blood spilled before it got absorbed into the ground, those kalim were in the house when there was a revius dam in the house, so they became tamei. If after the blood got absorbed into the ground, only then the kalim are brought into the house. Now this is a house without a revius dam, therefore it's not metam. What about nivla b'ksus? What if a revius of dam was absorbed into a beged? So the question is, do we say that there's a revius dam be'en here, and therefore, if this beged is in the house, it will also be metame everything in the house, but oil or not? Zok the Brisa, this is how you do a test. Right, you see, in miskabeses aksus, b'yoytzim imenu revius dam. If you would wash out the beged, and a revius dam would come out of it, now that you're able to extract the full revius dam from the beged, and there'll be no dam remaining in the beged. In other words, we could actually reestablish this dam, then tamei. V'imlav tahir. But the problem here is this is chazusa. All this is the blood that's absorbed in the beged. How could you say? I'm not forget. So it's saying clearly while it's absorbed in the beged, for sure it wouldn't be metama. It's only going to be metama if it could be extracted from the beged. Yet the Brisa before says even chazusa milsahi. So it's a stira. The Rabbi asks a stira from Orla. You see that even if it's merely a coloring, it's going to be as if it's bad. But when the dam is in the beged, we say no. If it's just in the shirt, that's not good enough to make it tummy. We have to be able to extract it from the beged. It's either chazuz or milsa or not. So the question is, the fact that you could see it in the beged, is that considered like it's be'en or not?
No, it's actually there.
It's a blood stain. Why is a blood stain different than a dye? When you see a blood stain, it looks like red. So Zok the Gemara, Amar Rav Kahana said, Mikulei Reviya Shanukan. We're not talking about dam daraisa. We're not talking about dam that's also with daraisa. If it's dam that's tummy with daraisa, avada, we would be mocked. Here we're speaking about dam that's only tummy midrabanan. What type of dam is only tummy midrabanan? The dam tavusa drabanan. What happened? Somebody was mortally wounded, and he's bleeding to death. After he dies, we find a revius dam, but we don't know this revius dam. Did it come out of his body while he was alive, and that's not metame oil, or did it come out of his body after he died, and then it is metame oil? We don't know. So that's only metame oil midrabanan. Such blood is where we have this shayla. But if it was blood that we know for sure was tamei, because it's we know for sure it came out after the person died, that's revius dam in the mace, which is tamei midaraisa. Of course, we would also say it. So this test of can you extract the dam from the beged is a very interesting test. Let's look how Rashi describes this test. Im miskabeses aksus v'yoytem in revius dam. So let's look. So Rashi is telling right off the bat, it's impossible that you can extract all of the blood that's in the beged. No matter how strong you squeeze it and rinse it, you're never going to be able to extract everything. Blood stains don't come out. You might get out some, but you're not going to get it all out. So therefore, if there was enough dam in this beged that you can get a revius out of it, The hichnis haksus lebayis, then the bayis. If there's so much blood absorbed into the shirt that you're able to extract a revius dam from the blood that's in the shirt, then we consider it like it's ba'en, and only then will it be metamed everything in the house oil. The yoytem and revius dam, shem yitnu. How you can tell? How you going to wash it? How you can tell? The teretz is when you wash it out, you wash out the beged with a measured amount of water, and after you finish washing it out, you measure the amount of water that's there. Any extra volume that's there has to be blood, because you only use 6 ounces of water. If there's now 7 ounces, then it must be that there's 1 ounce of blood. So that's how Rashi says to do it. It's a very, very interesting test. Wash it out with a measured amount of water, and if you have a little bit more, then you're good.
Look at it. Water to the back.
Okay, so that's no, you're asking a very question. Because look at Tosfos. Tosfos has a real problem with the practicality of Rashi's test. Pierce Bekuntrus, Shem Yitnu Mayim B'mida. If you wash it out with a measured amount of water, and then after you wash it, you find that there's more liquid there, Yimtzer Revius Yoser, there's an extra Revius, so then that Revius has to be blood. What else could it be? The Kasha Liperusha. So because I don't like this. Because Afilu Imlo Yimtzer Revius. Let's say you don't find a Revius. That shouldn't be proof positive that you didn't extract your Revius. Amai Taira. The Evsher L'oilam Imlo Yishtayer Bebeged B'namayim. How do you know that the 6 ounces, let's say there's only 6 ounces remaining. You put in 6 ounces, you get out 6 ounces. How do you know that's water? Maybe that's only 5 ounces of water and 1 ounce of blood, and maybe the ounce of water is in this, right? How can Rashi be so sure that he knows where everything's going? Eli Yesh Loimer Zaktash, I don't like Rashi's method. Eli Yesh Loimer Kedamar B'Tesefta, the Perk Dal the Oilets. The Sefta in the 4th Perk of Oilets gives us another way to do it. Revius Dam Shenivla B'Ksus Ketet Neshar Noisa. How do you figure this out? Maybe Mayim B'Mida, you bring an exact amount of the 6 ounces of water, and you're going to wash out the beggar. Okay, and now you have a solution that came out of it that's going to have a red tinge to it, right? But we don't know, is there a revius in this red tinged water or not? Then maybe Mayim Acherim, take other water that's exactly 6 ounces, and put a revius dam into it. If they're the same shade, well then Timeah. Now we don't care. We don't care if there's any water left over in the bag. All we're looking for is a ratio. We're for sure going to say it'll blend, and there'll be equal amounts in proportion of water and dam. Chances are the same concentration of blood and water in the cup will also be the same concentration in the beged. Mashiyotza u'mashin ishtayir. What came out of the beged and what is still in the beged. Umar echarei. And if they look the same, hilu yotza koil utoira. I'm sorry, yotza koil utoira u'tamei dekatani. And the Torah and the Tmeya that we're discussing is hainu le'inyin the tama esabayis, which is what Rashi says shetinasim. Ksus atzma tmeya. For sure, the beged tamei shenivla baravias dam etchila. Question is, if this beged is considered to be containing dam ba'en, that will be mitam. So there's another method of how to do this. V'oid matzinu lefarish. That's not what I want to see. And another is very interesting. Here, yes, that white cut. I'm 4 lines down in the white line. The my tzorich lemedinus mayim harishon. Why do I need to measure the 6 ounces that I'm starting to wash? Below medinus mayim harishon. Even if I don't measure how much water I started, still yochal hula das, I can still tell im yesh revius dam the mashiyotza al yidei kibbutz. I could tell if there'll be a revius dam in what's remaining from this solution after the wash. Why? Let him squeeze out whatever he can possibly wring out into a keli. The yimdud, and let him measure kama yesh vein mayim l'dam. Look at the total volume. We don't know the ratio, but there's for sure a mix of mayim and dam that he squeezed out of this thing. Look at the total volume. Let's say it's 8 ounces. Now the yavi revius dam alpha. Now take a revius dam. The yoisabel of mayim Take another revius, add it to water, so you should have a total of 8 ounces, right? So here I have 8 ounces of a mixture. Here I have 8 ounces of a mixture that I know for sure has a revius dominant. If they're the same shade, then there's a revius dam over here. If the mix that I made with the dam is deeper, then there's not a revius dam. So this is a simple litmus test. So Zog Toisus, maybe that, and that's the simplest way, without all these weird ways of doing it. When you're lefarish, then the lenokat mayim b'mida elamishum shem yimtzu yoysim in amida shenasnu. All the Rashi says is if you put in 6 and you got out 7 or 8, then you don't have to do any tests with comparing. You know for sure it's got to be done. So all Rashi saying is the easiest test is measure the water you put in. If there's more than revius out, you don't have to compare shades. You know for sure there's revius out. But if it's less, then you could still do this other test of measuring. So this is a little bit of the science lab of Tosfos of how to measure solutions, but they get pretty practical. Okay, Zok to Gemara weiter. Rava had another question. So now we learned the minat soivin sviche sitim bekoitza. There are certain species that are from wood that you can dye with. Rashi tells us, Satim's Kruga, Kachem. So these are different types of things that grew. We're talking about the Shemitah year, so they obviously grew wild because you weren't allowed to plant them. So you have these dyes, or you have at least these simonim that you could make dye out of that have the Kedusha Shemitah. Or do they have the Kedusha Shemitah? They're not fruits, they're dyes. They're simonim. So Zok, the Brisa, Yesh Lehem Shvius, they have the Kedusha Shvius, which means She'ein Oishin Mehen Tzchoira. You're not allowed to sell them, right? Because you're not allowed to sell Perish Shvius. And Rashi tells us that using them as a dye, not eating them, would be prohibited if they have Kedusha Shvius, or the main Shvius. And if you sell these, then their money has a Kedusha Shvius as well. Yesh Lambir, we know once there's no good supply of whatever you have out in the fields for the behemoths, you now have to remove whatever you have in your house from the Shemitah stuff with the man beer or any money that you got. So whatever the case is, you see wood takes on the Kedusha Shvius. Wood that you could dye with takes on Kedusha Shvius. Alma Eitzim Yesh Behen Shum Kedusha Shvius. See wood, not even a peri, wood has Kedusha Shvius. We're a mini, but we have a major kasha. Because the Brisa says elsewhere, Ale Kanim Ba'ale Gefal. You have the leaves of either vines or reeds, whatever it is, they're leaves. Shegiviven B'chaval Pneas. You bury them to protect them and save them. Literally, you squirrel them away for the winter. Depending on what purpose you had in mind for them, will determine whether or not they have the din of Kedusha Shvius. When you originally pick them and you put them away to store because you plan to use them to eat, so they're considered like a Michael, and therefore they are governed by all the rules of Shvius. But la'etzim, what if you only pick them because you were planning to use them as firewood? There they won't take on Kedusha Shvius, because firewood, there is no halacha of Kedusha Shvius on firewood. La'etzim ein b'mishum Kedusha Shvius. So this is a problem, because here it says la'etzim ein b'mishum Kedusha Shvius, yet these dyes have Kedusha Shvius. And for the Gemara, Mashani, Rava answers the question. Amar Kra La'achla. The pasuk says, what are you supposed to do with the parish of Shemitah? He says, Shabbos Ha'aretz Lachem La'achla. And we learn from there what type of hanas are considered Shviistic hanas. If the hana that you have comes at the same time that the item is consumed, like when you eat something, the hana that you have from eating it is at the same time that the item is consumed. The same thing goes with a dye. When you're dyeing with some type of simonim, as the simonim get dissolved, consumed, that's when you're benefiting from it. That's when it's taking form as a coloring in the bag. You ought to eat it, but if it's firewood, because firewood, the way you use firewood, for those who actually know how to barbecue, is they don't barbecue on the live flame. They wait till the flame dies out, it becomes a coal, right? And then they cook on it. So eitzim, after it's already burnt, only then you have enough from it to use as a firewood. So therefore, what's called a shviistic type of use, which would be governed, achila, but tzviya as well. That's why it discusses the halachas of shmita that apply to wood that you're using as dye. But wood that you're using as firewood, there it's not governed at all by hilchah shmita, so it's not a steep. Fragt Gemara, you're talking about firewood, but how about very oily wood that you use as a torch because you're lighting the wood for its light? There, it's hanosnu biron chapa. So those woods should be governed by all the isurim of shmita, and we know there is no special carve out to say that those are covered. Amarava, Zokt Rava, Stam Eitzim La Sakina. Normal wood, even oily wood, the norm is that people use it as firewood. And therefore, by default, all wood is treated like firewood and it's not governed by the halachas of shmita. Amar Rav Kahana, that in and of itself is not so simple. The Eitzim La Sakak Tadai. Whether or not you can assume as a given that any firewood is automatically only made to ignite, to use as a source of heat, that's also a machlokes. The Tanya we learned, Ein moisrin perish shvius, you're not allowed to give over perish shvius, loyla mishra v'loyla kvusa. Not to be soaked, or I'm not sure what kvusa is, but you're not allowed to use it for these purposes. Rabbi Yosy holds, noisrin perish shvius, l'seicha mishra l'seicha kvusa. I think it means you're using it either to soak the godim in it, they should get a good smell, a tinge, you should wash with them, the detergent. Like so whatever it is, it's going to benefit clothing. You're not allowed to use perish shvius for that. Why? What is the svara of the Rabbanan who say you're not allowed to? My time with the Rabbanan, I'm a crow, the Mishra. The Torah says, you know what you're supposed to do with the perish? You're supposed to eat them. You're not supposed to use them to soak things in. Or you're not allowed to use it to wash things. Rabbi Yosy, no, I have a different passage. You're allowed to use it for anything. Lachem is marba, extra uses. Zok Gemara, yes, lachem. True, it's marba things. But only things, dum yidalach. The only types of things that you're allowed to do with perish of shvius are things that are similar to eating, which means v'mishan na'asai will be urei shavet. Like when you're dyeing something, there, as the dye, as the simonim dissolve, it's going right away into the beged, and you're having enough of it right away. Because when you soak it right away, it ruins the payers, but the clothing don't benefit till 3 or 4 days later, Rashi says. So that's why it's not an approved use of perish shvius. Rabbi Yosy nami yaksav la'achla. Rabbi Yosy holds it is an approved use. It says la'achla. Amalach, I only boile for a different thing. L'chidetanya. The Tanya la'achla v'loy l'malugma. You're allowed to use it to eat. You're not allowed to use it to make a paste out of, like an ointment. You have a ribu, you have a miyat, right? How do you know to allow soaking and not allow ointment? Maybe allow ointment and don't allow soaking. It says lachem, why would you go this way? You go the other way. The rabbi said kfusa, like some lugba. The more marba said kfusa being marba sheshave bechalad. Everybody washes their clothing, and therefore it's a use that's very common. That's why I feel that should be considered law. Only people who have wounds, who are sick, need ointments, and therefore, I say it should be allowed. Malukma should not. So Zok Gemara, based on this command Osla, now that we've explained this Machlokes Rabbi Yosy and the Rabbanon, who is the following brisa consistent with? Command Osla Hadatanya, La'achla v'loy l'malugla, La'achla v'loy l'ziluf, La'achla v'loy l'as minah. Duzen, the man Rabbi Yosy must be going according to Rabbi Yosy, because this does not prohibit kvusa and mishra. The Rabbanon, economic mishra and kvusa should also be excluded from the uses of Shemitah pairs. So where do you see this machlokes? So Rashi explains that there's things that you know for sure have specific. You know what? It's already late. I'll review this back tomorrow, and we'll get it. So long as Rashi. Okay, everybody have a wonderful event today.